Today we have a remarkable guest with us, Joe Sealey. Joe is not just a prolific entrepreneur, author and TV personality, he's also the son of legendary goalkeeper Les Sealey.
The club doctor come to the house, so they want to see the doctor. And I said to him, I think I killed my dad. I said, my career ending caused his heart attack. And now I know, medically it didn't. And he went, at the time, I can't tell you didn't. As an adult now, I think he should have lied to me even if he thought that. Right? Because I was an 18-year-old kid in a mess.
Elliott Wald, addiction specialist. Coming clean with me.
Hello, I'm Elliott Wald and welcome to another episode of Coming Clean with Me. Today we have a remarkable guest with us, Joe Sealey. Joe is not just a prolific entrepreneur, author and TV personality, he's also the son of legendary goalkeeper Les Sealey, whose heroics for Manchester United are still remembered fondly. Les was the goalkeeper who helped Manchester United win the 1990 FA Cup final replay and the 1991 European Cup winners final. His sudden death at 43 from a heart attack left a void, not just in the football world, but in the hearts of his family. And at the tender age of 18, Joe's life took a devastating turn. He suffered a career-ending injury that shattered his dreams of following in his father's footsteps as a professional footballer. Just a week later, his beloved father suddenly passed away, and the shock and overwhelming grief sent Joe into a destructive downward spiral of alcohol and addiction, isolation and ill health. Fast forward to now, Joe has fought his way back from the brink. He takes his sobriety and recovery day by day, whilst focusing on his business ventures and being a popular cast member of the hit reality TV show, The Real Housewives of Cheshire, alongside his wife, Nicole. Welcome, Joe.
Hi,
I got it right
you
there.
got
yeah?
there.
I got there. So, Joe, tell me about growing up, your childhood, where you grew up, what that was like for you.
Yeah, so in my childhood, I moved about a little bit. So I was born originally in Coventry, in the Walgrave Hospital in 1983. I know I don't sound like it, but all of my family from East London, and 2 months after I was born, we moved back to London. My dad left Coventry and went to Luton Town. And we lived in Chingford.
Way, Luton.
Luton Town. So we played for Luton Town for 7 years. And we lived in a place called Chingford in East London, where my mum's family's from. And we went there. I lived there. I went to school there, junior school. And when I was 8, I moved to Manchester. Moved to Manchester United. We were there for 4 years before quickly moving to Blackpool, to a place called Lytham St Anne's. He stayed there for 2 months and moved to West Ham United. We ended up staying there for 18 months. It was a school, and then moved back to Essex, to Loughton. So I moved around a lot, but as my family home, I would what you would call normal. 2.4 children, loving parents. My dad was a very normal father. Everyone asked me all the time, what was it like having my dad as my dad? Well, he was just my dad. So I don't know what else to compare him to. But to everyone else, it was like something special. But to me and to him, he'd say to me, it's just a job. It's my job. But I didn't realise things like I'd come home from school at 3 o'clock and he was always at home because players are done by 1 o'clock. And I never realised that people's dads weren't at home to 6, 7 o'clock. I really didn't realise it till I started going to friends' houses when I was a little bit older and thinking, where's your dad? You know what I mean? Yeah. My dad was always indoors. So I had a great childhood, loved, privileged, I suppose. I went to normal school. Players didn't earn as much money as they do now when my dad was playing, so we lived in like semi-detached 4-bedroom houses, but still nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
And your father was a tough disciplinarian, I heard. What impact did his approach to parenting have on your teens?
So my dad was like what you'd call old school East End. So he got brought up like on the same road as the Crays. So when he was a kid, they were around, and he was one of the kids around Bethnal Green. And I think he was, as long as you was respectful, he never hit me, but he would be the disciplinarian in my house. So if I was cheeky to my mum or I got in trouble at school, it wouldn't be my mum that'd tell me off because I weren't really scared of my mum. But it wouldn't be often, but if I got told to come here, you come, and then you got told, and then you said sorry, and you got on and you told me you loved me. But even up to the point of his death when I was 18, I still go and say to him, is it all right if I go to the cinema, or is it all right if I go this or whatever? And I'm 18-year-old then playing professional football when I'm earning money, but I still said to him, is it all right? Respect, yeah. He was big about that. And, he'd like to be kissed when I come in, kissed when I went out, and kissed when I went to bed, really.
It's nice.
It was nice, yeah. And things like that would upset him.
Yeah, just for someone who's not into football, doesn't know anything about football, as we spoke about previously, who did you play for?
So I played for West Ham United. From the day I left school, I went straight into West Ham.
That was all you knew.
All I knew, but it's all I knew my whole life. So it doesn't just start when you leave school. You're already in the system before that. And because, I realise this stuff now. I was born into football. Everyone I was around was a footballer. My dad's uncle was another famous player. My mum's side of the family, there's two other players that played for Man United and other clubs. So everyone around me was in football. I didn't think about anything else. I didn't know about anything else.
It's in your DNA.
It was in my DNA, yeah.
It really was. Can you talk me through the events of that fateful summer when you lost both your career and your dad in a matter of weeks?
Yeah, so I was 18, nearly 19 years old. It was my third full-time season as a footballer. And in the first year, I got a really bad injury. I kept dislocating my shoulder. And I was out for 12 months. I'm cut all the way around my left shoulder. I had a full reconstruction. And I had to wear like a bodysuit for nearly 6 months, which pinned my arm to my body 24 hours a day. And then it took another 6 months because when they took it off me, I couldn't move my arm. So it took to get my movement back. But they told me then, look, what you've had done is like so traumatic on your body. Plus, you can't keep missing 12 months. If it happens again, you are done. And nearly like 2 years later, I'm in training, just a normal training session. I dive at, I think, Jermaine Defoe's feet to the right. I should have held it. It was an easy one. And I spilled it. And as I stood up, I dived back on the ball, put my left arm on top of the ball to pull it back in, and my shoulder went pop. And I thought, I'm done. Was taken to the hospital, taken to all the house in Buckersteel, and I still remember the double doors when mum and dad walking down the hill towards me. Started crying. And at the time, I thought she ended my life, really. I never got to speak about it with my dad either. Because I don't think at that point, he died 10 days later of an heart attack. And I never spoke about it with him. So what I found out afterwards, that all the stuff to do with my retirement, because there's all sort of processes you have to go through and money you get from your insurance and then PFA and the club, that was all sorted out for me. He'd done it all. But it changed. So I thought, up to that day when my dad died, I've always thought there was nothing more important than football. I literally believed that. And then when he died, I thought, I don't care about football.
Yeah. Just took me for a minute.
Yeah.
Just listening to you saying, like, the person who's been there all your life,
yeah.
who's been supportive, understanding, caring, loving, nurturing, and being your idol.
Yeah, he was, yeah.
Who's taking you through football, to suddenly not have that person to talk to. Obviously, you've lost him. That's devastating. But also, as you said, to not have that person to talk to about your career, which is suddenly dissipated before your eyes, which was the one person you could have relied on to talk to.
Yeah, yeah. It was my dad did everything for me. As in, if I needed advice, it was my dad I'd speak to. I listened to him. I did what he told me, really, my whole life. I suddenly didn't have him. And I also didn't have the other discipline in my life, which was football. Because football, as much as it's like looks great on the outside, it's quite regimented. It isn't like plucking chickens or being in the army, but you are told to be here at 9 o'clock. Here's your lunch, here's your food, here's your trainers. Like everything is done for you. I suddenly lost my dad, and I lost everything. So like I said to people, like now, I never knew how to go to the doctors. I never knew how to go to the dentist because as a kid, I had the club doctors and dentists because he had that. So then I went into it. I was playing football. When I've left, I had any problems. I didn't know what to do. I was still going to the West Ham United dentist 5 years later after I finished playing, lying, saying I was coming as a player. Don't know how many bills they must have got because of me.
Wow.
But I didn't know how to do anything.
Yeah, that's really interesting because when we come on to talking about your addiction, just to preempt that, when you talk about, I didn't know how to do anything, and you had to turn up at the club at 9 and all your meals were made for you, and you finish the club at whatever time that was, 1 o'clock, was that?
Yeah, 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock.
1 o'clock to 3 o'clock, and then you go home and you go to sleep because you rest your body because it's all about training. That was structure. You had structure, right?
Yeah.
So not only did you lose your dad, not only did you lose your career, you lost your structure. So when you get turned to addiction and you've got no structure to fulfill your day.
It was my day. It was my day when I started addiction. But, I think of addiction in so many different ways. And the truth is, when I first took the bag,
the packet,
I truly believe that saved my life at that point in my
I read that. Explain
time.
That to me.
Well, looking back at it, I come from a background. This is the truth. I knew nothing about drugs. I'd never seen it. Right. The first time I took the packet was the first time I'd seen any type of drug.
How did that come about?
There was a guy called Michael Edward Hammond, who was at the time Danny Minogue's boyfriend and a fake TV producer. He went to prison a little while ago for breaking into Buckingham Palace, pretending he was a police officer.
Oh, yeah, I remember the guy.
So I met him in a meeting, and he said, "Do you want to come to Manchester at the weekend?" I said, "Yeah, all right." Got in his car, drove to Manchester with him. We went out to a place called the Rectory. In fact, I live 500 yards from that place now, and it's just changed. I'm going there for dinner tonight. It used to be a nightclub. It's in Wilmslow. And he took me there, and he took me back to somebody else's house, and there was cocaine.
The packet. It's all
there
right.
was the packet there, and he went, "Do some of that." And under what I would call peer pressure, I did it. And it changed the way I felt. And it changed what I did and what I behaved like. Because before that, my addiction was probably women. And I remember at that time, there was a girl that I was going in a room with. And I took that and I didn't. I just talked shit all night. But it made me feel better. It changed the way I felt. And I think at that point, I was probably, without knowing it, I don't know if I would have ever committed to, I was suicidal. My whole life was in pieces. A nuclear bomb had gone off. And that changed how I felt. I felt happy again at that point, which is horrible to say, really, because by the end, it took everything from me.
You don't see it at the beginning, though.
No, it took everything from me. And I went quickly from that point. You know, I'd go up to Manchester. It's so bizarre when I say this, because I lived in Essex, near the country club and near Faces nightclub. I didn't know anyone to buy drugs off. So I would go to Manchester once a month with these people, go out normally. It might be a Wednesday, might be a Saturday, but I'd go out, go up there, do a bit of packet, have a drink, come back, live normally. I mean, it didn't last long. Probably 6 months later, I knew where to get it in Essex, and it started. And it was normal. It was normal I wasn't that normal on it for very long, actually, probably 12 months. I remember two distinct occasions. The first time I bought it in the daytime, I remember exactly where I was. I'd come out of a meeting in Woodford. I went to a building site, picked up 3 bags, went back to my apartment and did it. And I thought, this is brilliant. And then my 21st birthday, my nan and granddad, who I love dearly, for Chinese, left there as quickly as I could. I bought a bottle of the Jack Daniels from the BP in Debden, and I bought a quarter of an ounce a packet. I went back to my apartment and sat there for 2 days. And I do distinctly remember thinking I've cracked this. This is the best thing ever. This is what life's all about. I don't need to go out ever again. Because I didn't like pubs. I didn't like pubs. I didn't like nightclubs. I don't like people that much most of the time, to be honest with you. So being in those busy places made me feel anxious. I wasn't there for anything else. It was either sex or drugs. And from that point on, that's what I did.
And how often after that, going to Manchester, then 6 months later finding it from someone, how often were you using it at that point?
At that point, twice a week maybe, but I'd be going to the nightclub. And I remember once buying 7.5s and then leaving them in a drawer. Like normal people, I don't know if normal people buy 7.5s, but normal people do. That didn't, after those, and that did last like that. I got 1.5 out every time I went out somewhere until they went. I can't ever remember doing that again, to be honest with you. That's the only time I remember it. I remember it being a little bag of boot polish in my drawer at my mum's house. I ramped up quickly. Quicker than most people I speak to.
In what duration?
Within my 20. I was 20, so I finished playing at nearly 19. At 21, I was a daily addict, like a daily smash myself to pieces every day addict. So I would say from maybe I didn't use. I can't remember the date of the first time I used, but maybe I was 20, maybe I was 19 and a half. Within a year, I'm at full pelt.
And when you're using it daily, what quantity are we talking about?
My worst, I was up to half an ounce. I'd be doing 10 to 14 bags a day. At my worst, I let a drug dealer live in my house for free, and I still bought the drugs off him. How mad is that? I did that.
You're the second person I've heard say that.
I did that.
The second, Dan said this, Dapper said the same thing to me. Yeah. Exactly the same.
I let him live with me for free.
Yeah.
I convinced him to leave his girlfriend to live with me.
You manipulated the situation so you could have the packet on hand.
Yeah. Yeah. But at the same time, because I didn't want him to think I was too bad, I was also buying it of other people.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Because I couldn't, heaven forbid, that the drug dealer that I'm living with me for free thinks I'm using too much drugs. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's crazy, isn't it?
It's mad. It's crazy.
And I was a daily user. I mean, daily for I remember at the start it was fun. I remember thinking, oh, I can see how long I can stay awake for. 3 days, 4 days, 5. And I used to think it was like clever. I'd talk about it. I'd tell people, I'd tell my friends that were footballers, you got to try this. This is like the best thing ever. So very quickly, never talking to anyone ever again. Those people that were my friends then, and there's a couple I really regret. And a couple I have reached out to in the past that I lost. My choice. No one ever left me. My choice.
Yeah. I mean, it's the most sociable drug in the world that becomes the most anti-sociable drug in the world.
Yeah.
Isn't that how you sum it up?
Yeah. And that what sums me up to a T. I never wanted to socialise with it. I don't know why. I think it's because I was ashamed. Actually, I think it was an embarrassment inside me that went, you don't want people to see you like this. And then the other side that liked being on my own. You know, nowadays I don't like being on my own.
I wonder if there was a part of you at that time that liked being on your own because that way you couldn't be let down because you lost your dad and you lost other people around you and you lost your career. And if I'm only on my own, I can't let anybody down and nobody can let me down. I wonder if that was a part of it.
Yeah, I think I hated the world. I think I hated myself. I can remember looking in the mirror, punching it and like screaming and horrible stuff that I did to myself. I never did it to anyone else really. You know, apart from my family, which our addiction affects, obviously. You know, people have to remember that. They're the ones that go the most. I did it all to myself. You know, no one really ever helped me put a straw up my nose. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It didn't affect your business, though. You were functioning, correct?
Yeah, so I functioned at that point. I was a dry sniffer most of the time at that point. Wasn't often a drunk. I might have drunk every so often with it, but no abnormal to how anyone drinks normally.
It's interesting when we talk about, I mean, I was a dry sniffer. We talk about dry sniffing. I'm wondering if people who are more likely to be dry sniffers are people who are busy running businesses or busy doing things where they can do a line and get away with it, especially if they're functioning, right?
Yeah.
But you can't drink alcohol because if someone smells alcohol in your breath, or it's not the same buzz, right? Yeah. Is that why you think you became a dry sniffer?
I never liked alcohol. I still don't. I mean, my using changed over the years and I ended up using a lot of alcohol when I was using, but I don't ever think about alcohol. I never think I fancy a drink. I didn't like the taste of it. I don't like how alcohol makes me feel. I don't like feeling tired. I don't like it. So I think I was lucky. I found that. I never tried any other drugs. I might have done one pill once and I might have smoked one joint once. I didn't like anything else. I found it. I was home. I was safe. And I found what I need. And that's what that did for me. But, you know, without a shadow of a doubt. And I think that I was so depressed inside and so messed up that at the worst point in my life, and I wasn't a man, I thought I was, but I wasn't, I learned to self-soothe or look after myself by using that drug. And it took me a long time and a lot of work not to do that.
When did you realise that coping strategy was detrimental to you, though?
I don't think I realised it's a coping strategy for you know, it's 15 years, but I knew by, again, quite, you know, I think of myself as an intelligent guy. You know, I can run businesses, I can do deals. I knew early I weren't right. I think I went to my first meeting at 22. I weren't stopping, but I knew I weren't all right. You know, I went and saw the doctor. You know, this is a big turning point for me, actually, that I could have, you know, I went to Malia, and I'll tell you the truth, I don't normally say, I flew with it on me, right? So I went to Malia with my friends. I was 20. I flew with it. And I'd done the 7 bags that I had with me in the first day, right? With people that I went with, foot players. So no one else doing it, just me. I ended up sitting in a room with 2 people I'd never even met. And I felt really like terrible. So I was a bit upset the day after. I rang my mum. She said, come home. I didn't come home. I stayed there a week. Couldn't get drugs there at that point. I couldn't. So I suffered that week. And when I come back, the club doctor come to the house. So I want to see the doctor. And I told him. And I said to him, I think I killed my dad. I said, my career ending caused his heart attack. And now I know medically it didn't. It was a freak thing that happened to my dad, 1 to 1 chance. But in my head, I thought I killed my dad. And he went, at the time, I can't tell you didn't. Right? Now, as an adult now, I think he should have lied to me even if he thought that. Right? Because I was an 18-year-old kid in a mess. And he didn't. And I never asked for help again after that point for a long time. for a long time. I never went and saw anyone again for 5, 6 years, 7 years.
Why would you? Why would you go to someone when already you tried to go to someone who's already looked at you and blamed you for that?
Yeah.
Rightly or wrongly, that's what he did.
Yeah. And
That's
I'd known
not
him a
gonna
long
help
time,
you.
and he knew my dad. So,
Someone you looked up to then.
yeah. And he's a nice guy. In fact, I bumped into him a little while ago. He's at a different football club now.
He didn't do it with animosity. He did it without realising it.
He did it because he thought that was, you know, the right answer. But the right answer is you don't tell people that.
Yeah. Joe, my research has brought this to me. It says you never wanted to carry on, but just couldn't stop. Even each time you did it, you knew you didn't want to use it, but you just couldn't stop yourself. Explain that to me.
At the end, there's many phases of my, at the end of my, what I would call like my every using, I was sniffing a gram a go. I just like, fight.
Per line.
Fucking, because in my head, I'm going to get rid of it.
Oh, you've bought it, but now I want to get it gone as fast as possible.
Gone. But then I'm going to get in more. I mean, I was, my physically, I was in such a mess that my eyes, I would bleed, like bleed and water as I was doing it. Because everything in me was rotting. Because I was hitting it hard, like, you know. So I'm firing like gram out and going bang. Oh, it's gone. I've either got 7 more or I'm buying more. But then when I've got it, I don't want it. And I had that torturous thing that, you know, all addicts a lot of do, where you don't want it. It's a bit like when you ring the dealer, don't answer the phone, but if he answers the phone, I'll buy it. Do you know that one? You
Yes,
know,
I know that one.
You know, why, if you don't text me back, I'll WhatsApp him, because if you don't WhatsApp me back, of course he's going to WhatsApp you back. It's his job.
Yeah.
So, all of that, it went on for a long time. Like, I mean, the worst point, I didn't sleep once for 10 days. And I know it was 10. The only reason I know it's 10 days, my mum went to South Africa, and when she came back, I hadn't slept. I fell asleep in my office chair, and I slept for 2.5 days in a chair. And I had a swivel chair in my office. And I remember waking up that day, my mouth was a mess, bleeding. I hadn't really eating, drinking milkshakes like we all do. Milkshakes to milk will make you feel better. And cherry tomatoes. I used to like eating cherry tomatoes. Thinking, I've got to sort this out, or I'm going to die, because I was dying, is the truth. I had all the glitz and the glamour on the outside of my life. I had a lovely life on the outside, but inside I was dying. And I changed my using. I didn't stop, I changed after that 10 days, from every day to what I would call normal, but not normal.
And during that sleep deprivation, did you experience paranoia?
No, I weren't too bad with that. A couple of times I did see once like ants running up the wall, but only once. I've heard you talk about that, but I saw it once. It was about 3 days into once, right at the start. I think these insects are running up the wall. I didn't get too much. I was a little bit through certain periods curtain twitchy. When I had the dealer living in my house, I'd worry about the police. You know what I mean? Because I was causing my own paranoia, though, because it was true. Do you know what I mean? Because I don't want to get in trouble. You know, I mean, I was getting in trouble in other things in my life and doing silly things and driving, and you know, why wouldn't I drive? You know, it doesn't make sense, does it, not to? No. You know,
there's a question that is very standard when you're talking to somebody about addiction, and the question usually is, how long have you been clean and sober? And when you were asked your answer, I loved your answer. And can I tell you why I loved your answer? I loved your answer because that's the answer I give. And I've never had a guest, and I respect all my guests, but I've never had a guest up until you who've said the same answer as to how I feel. So I'm not going to say it. So tell me, what's your answer?
Today.
Explain that.
When I first went to meetings, I'd go in and people would say, 5 years sober, put your hand up, 10 years sober, 20 years sober. And I used to think, bollocks, you liar. Or I can't get there. And I know they do it to help you. It didn't help me. It stopped me. I was jealous. I was insecure about it and thought I couldn't do it. So I decided that I'm sober today. At the minute, I was sober yesterday. And I've been sober quite a few days in a row. But I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And I don't know what's going to happen this afternoon. But if I start thinking about it, it don't work for me. And it doesn't matter. Because anyone out there can be sober today, even if it's for an hour. And I can do that. I can't do 6 years. And that's why. That's why. And it doesn't matter. Actually, the most sober person in the meeting sometimes can be the person that one day sober, because their truth's more real.
And what avenue did you go down to get help with your addiction?
I went to AA meetings and CA meetings at the start. I'd hear things that I didn't want to hear, and then I'd leave. You know, like a guy giving another guy a blowjob for coke, and I think, hey, mate, I ain't doing that. Do you know what I mean? That's not for me. Won't go to that meeting. I stopped going, and that would be it. And I'd go and see a therapist every so often, and then I'm good at manipulating them, and then stop going to that one, go to that one. You know, do this, do that, keep people happy. And the biggest turning point for me is I met my wife, who's never taken drugs. You know, has a glass of wine.
How old were you when you met?
I was 25.
Okay.
I was 25. Now I was hiding my using then. I met him on a night out in a nightclub in Epping called 195. 30th of November.
What date?
30th of November. It was raining. It was 11:30. It was 2006. I remember exactly everything about it. And I met her. She was very normal. She worked. She had her own business as well, and she was, you know, pretty put together. And she was kind, and she never understood what I was like for quite a long time. Because I'd go out of her and I'd use a bit, and that was sort of half acceptable, half not. It wasn't really acceptable.
Did she know?
At that point, yes.
Okay.
Because I'd tell her, but I would never tell her I'd never tell her the right volume.
Of course not.
Right. So I'd go, I've got one, I'd have three. I mean, this didn't last long. I mean, within the first year of our relationship, it went from you need to stop doing that. Because it's pretty evident that if I start, I'm not stopping and I'm up all night and I'm going still, you know, but I'm still on my best behaviour. And we got married 2 years later.
So in this 2 years, you're still using it this period?
Yeah, I never stop. I might go for a month. I might go for a week. I'm using when I go out, but I'd make sure I'm going out then. At this point, I am going out because I've got a girlfriend I want to use, and she is not even a drinker. Do you know what I mean? And she's got, you know, working properly and kids and all sorts of stuff. So, she's
normal.
She's normal. Like a normal person wants me. Whether or not she's got codependency, different thing there. But, you know, she can't be half not well because stay with me. But we got married and I come back off that honeymoon. On that honeymoon, I think it became apparent I weren't quite all right. And I went to rehab the week after our wedding for anger and lying.
That's what you told her?
That's what I told them. That's what they told me.
Okay.
They gave me a book, said anger is a drug, and I believed it. Right? I lasted a week at the Priory in Southgate, and I come out, and I was all right.
Saved.
I was saved. I spoke quieter. I spoke slowly. I manipulated it.
Then what happened?
I was back on it within a month. I remember exactly. I drove into London to go take her out for dinner. I said, I'll go have a beer. I had a beer on a one of them barge boats. I drove back to Essex, left on a boat, drove back to Essex.
You left her on the boat?
From Embankment, bought some drugs and drove back.
Sorry, just go back.
Yeah.
You take Nicole on a date.
Yeah.
On a barge.
Yeah.
You now get the itch.
Yeah, I drive back.
You drive all the way back to pick up.
Yeah,
and you drive all the way back again.
Yeah.
Where does she think you are?
I said I was on the phone.
You said you were on the phone the whole time?
Yeah. I was about an hour and a half. But, that's just one example of the many, many things I've done like that. I mean, it's an endless thing, isn't it? I mean...
What do you think is the craziest thing you've done?
It depends what level of crazy you want. I wrote a car off. So before I met my wife, I was going past the Grove Hotel in Watford, drunk. No, I wasn't high, surprisingly. I wasn't high. I was seeing this girl. And I had a Mercedes SL 350, brand new. I was pissed. And I flipped a Range Rover over the top of it. Right? I know. No one was hurt, luckily, but I flipped it. They was hanging upside down. I ran off. Right, I got away. I said the car was stolen. Got arrested. Day after, I reported the car stolen. I didn't like this girl very much at all. So I stopped answering the phone to her that week. She grasped me up. I got nicked. I got done for averting the course of justice, and they couldn't prove you drink driving. Averting the course of justice, I was lucky actually. I got community service and 10 points. I didn't get a ban. I should have went to prison really. They took pity on me because I told them the truth in the end. He went, I'm going to drop averting the course of justice to wasting police time, and he done me a right favour. That's one thing. I've smoked crack with a tramp in the street in Soho and left her in Sexy Fish, one of the best restaurants in London. There is nothing I ain't done. I've sat in the offices, in some of our offices before, in the cubicle in the toilet for 6 hours drinking vodka and stuff until everyone leaves. Like I am I'm a multi-millionaire, is the truth, but I am a homeless person easily if I'm drinking and using. I've sat on a park bench in Snaresbrook 2 days after my second stint in rehab, smoking a cigar, 8 o'clock in the morning, doing kaluki on a newspaper, drinking vodka out of a brown bag and sniffing coke for 2 days, not moving. It gets me to all sorts of places I don't want to be, and I don't care. So there's, my stories are endless. There's endless stories.
Once you start, there's no stopping.
I can't stop. She stops me. Over the time she would because my habit went from binging, I ended up being bingy, like 4 or 5 day binges. But what I would do is lock myself away. Like I would go to an hotel. She wouldn't have me in the house. I'd go and check into an hotel, but I wouldn't leave that room. I wouldn't let the cleaners in. I used to get receptionists ringing me up, checking if I was all right, and I'd pretend I was working nights. Until she would work out what hotel I was in, she would drive around looking for my car or work out by my credit card where I was. She'd drive around and knock the door down. Multiple times. And that would happen every 3-6 months, give or take, during my recovery at the start.
How long did she put up with that?
She never left me.
Wow. She's listening right
She
now.
never
What would you
left
say to her?
Oh, there's not enough things to say. I said to her, I will say to her all the time, I'm sorry. She didn't deserve any of the worry or any of the things I did or any of the things that affected her life because of what I was like. She never deserved it. She should have left me. I would leave her because it would have been the best thing for me. But she didn't. But, what she stood by was years of a mess. Years of problems. But I was always by myself. So I don't know whether that was the bit where I think if I wasn't by myself all the time, then maybe it'd be different. I don't know.
She saw something in you.
She saw something. She says that.
Did she say that?
Yeah.
She did. She saw something in you.
She says that. She says I saw the good in you. And it'd be bits, there'd be glimpses, wouldn't there? I'd go 6 months, 3 months, and I'd be all right and working. I always worked and, I care about the kids and all that. But I do that. I'm quite a moral person. I try and live my life right. Not because of recovery. I don't do normal recovery anymore. But I don't like being I don't know if I can say, I don't like being a cunt.
You can say what you like.
I don't like being a cunt. So, but when I do that, I'm the opposite to what I believe.
I think the answer is this. You're a really good person at heart with a good heart and a lot of time and energy to give to people you care about. And she saw that, and she saw something that came along that knocked you really, that you couldn't take control of, but she still saw the good in you. And that's why she stayed by you.
Yeah.
What did you lose over your addiction?
I lost myself for 10 years, lost friends, my family. My mum's another good woman like my wife, never confronted me. My mum's soft, but I would have told her fuck off, to be honest. But my brother don't talk to me.
Your brother doesn't talk to you?
Yeah, and that's for a different reason maybe, but I think my addiction and another thing that's to do with him, and he's not an addict, is the reason he doesn't talk to me. That was his choice.
Okay.
But I'll take some responsibility in that. Most things in my life are my fault, and I'll take full responsibility. With this one, it's half mine.
Is it worth you half fixing it?
I saw him at a funeral. I walked up to him and said, "Are you okay?" He shook his hand. I will always be all right with him.
What was his response?
He shook my hand, but he went, because I think really the problem is something to do with his feelings, not mine. So, but I'll take responsibility of that. I lost friends, loved ones. I must have lost business deals. I must have, because why wouldn't I have? There's things I never turned up for. I always seemed to manage to work through most stuff until near the end, and I couldn't. I was a zombie.
I've spoken to a lot of successful and what I would consider ultra successful people, very, very successful people who have had addictions, who have been very functioning and able to successfully navigate their life while they had an addiction. Because just because you have an addiction doesn't necessarily mean that you can't be quote unquote successful.
Yeah, I agree.
I just think there's a propensity in you to want to escape from whatever it is in your life at that moment in time.
Yeah, I think as well, I was very lucky. The truth is, I believe I was very lucky that my wife runs a business that employs 1,000 people and she knows what she's doing. So when I went, because the last 5, 6, 7 years of my addiction, I couldn't speak if I was at it. Verbally couldn't speak. I didn't go anywhere. So she'd run my businesses. The business that sold for 8 figures wouldn't have happened without her. I was sober when that sold, but you know, it wouldn't have happened without her.
She's your rock.
She's everything.
And what way is your life different now?
Oh, it's immeasurably different. I'm happy. I get the gift of waking up in the morning early, which I do believe is like a gift. No one's angry at me. People are happy to see me. I can communicate. I can listen to my children and not want to kill people. I can drive a car without worrying if I'm going to get pulled over. Just normal stuff. I eat. Turn up on time. I'm able to go, this podcast 170 miles where I live. Yeah, I'll be there. Because it's important. Do you know what I mean? Just to be present is a gift of recovery. Forget everything else. Not wanting to die.
And what daily routines have you formed that helps you maintain a clean lifestyle?
Massive on that. I'm massive on that. So I wake up early.
What time's early?
5 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock. Well, I don't have an alarm, but I naturally now wake up. I'm up by 6 easily. I go downstairs, I have a big bottle of water. I'll drink some of that. I have a black coffee. I talk to the dog on the couch. Lucky enough, I've got a gym and a pool in my house and a sauna. I'll go in the gym, like without fail. I was in the gym this morning before I come here. I'll do whatever I'm going to do. Might be 45 minutes of cardio. Might be running. I like a Peloton, do weights, whatever it is I'm doing that day. I'll do it every day. I'll come back in. I'll go on TikTok or Instagram or do some emails, get in the shower, start my day. My business partner's 24 years sober. That's Andy. I'm with him all the time.
Shout out to Andy, 24 years sober.
No, that's Andy. His name's Phil. His name's Phil.
Phil.
Phil. Yeah,
Phil. Sorry.
Yeah. Daytime wife Phil, I call him. He's 4 years sober. So like, you know, and that's my routine. I normally try to get in the evening, even if it's just walking.
Yeah.
I still struggle by myself. I hate being indoors by myself. And being indoors is my favourite place to be. Next to her. It's so mental. As soon as she's not there, I can't relax. So when she's not there, I have to be active. I like cooking, try and eat well. Not always my bestest thing. I struggle with that. It's probably another addiction I've got to food. I blew up to 24 stone at the end of my addiction. You know, I went from being a professional footballer, training every day, to not doing anything for 10 years. Because if I weren't getting paid, I weren't exercising. I never saw any of it. But just being normal. Like, you know, that's my daily routine. But the morning's important. Whether I go to bed, I like to go to bed about 9. Watch the telly, fall asleep. I tell her I love her. She always holds my hand. She doesn't realise she does this. She holds my hand, fall asleep. I always wake up at that time, even if I go to bed at 1. I'll wake up at that time. I love it.
It's nice, right?
I love it.
I'm the same.
Love it.
Something just changes when you get over your addiction. That, well, I know, but listening to you and myself, I might wake up 4:30, 5 o'clock every morning. Yeah. When you're clean, it's just something, I don't know what does that. I don't know if it's the same with everybody. It's certainly listening to you. Yeah. That's the same for me. As a recognised social media personality, businessman, being on TV and the things you do, how do you maintain being sober and being clean while being in the spotlight? Because you go to places where there's free alcohol, where there are people using, where there are those situations. How do you deal with that?
Again, alcohol, I'm not worried about it. I don't think about it too much. But, you know, obviously sometimes you are. I think being honest is the truth, is the best way. Because I spent a lot of time in recovery telling people I weren't drinking because I was on antibiotics or whatever. If you just tell people what you are, then it's all right, isn't it? But would I sit there with someone doing loads of coke? No. Would I sit there with people drinking? Yeah, not a problem. I'm happy because I know tomorrow, at the minute, I'm going to wake up at 5 o'clock, go in the gym, go for a walk probably on a Saturday and have a coffee with my wife. And that's enough. I don't go to loads of things. But I didn't go to loads of things when I was using. And that's not because I'm sober. It's because I don't like it.
It's fair enough.
You know what I mean? So
tell the people listening to this about your book, On Days Like These, The Lost Memoir of a Goalkeeper.
Yeah.
Tell us what it's about. I know what it's about.
Yeah.
Tell the listeners.
In 1994, my dad did a book that I didn't know about with a school teacher, cassette tapes and a manuscript. And in 2014, I bumped into this school teacher who who had a very distinct haircut. He had a pudding haircut, and I recognised him because he was my Sunday morning teacher when I was 10. So I'm now 30. And I'm watching my son play. He's there, and I say, "Oh, you Les Clitheroe?" And he says, "Yeah." So it's Joe Sealey. I've not seen you in 20 years. Blah blah blah. He said, "I've got your dad's book." I said, "My dad never did a book. He only did. Come to my house." So I turned up on the Monday, made me a cup of tea, and he brought down a packed lunchbox full of cassette tapes, my dad talking, and a Word manuscript. Wrote one copy on a word processor, and he gave it to me. I've still not listened to the tapes. It's the truth. But that sat in my cupboard till about 2018. I weren't ready to deal with it. And I thought one day I'm dealing with it. I rang somebody that contacted me before about it, and he said, "I want you to meet Tim Rich, writer, sports writer, journalist. He lives in Sale, 6 miles from me." But at the time, COVID had just come by the time I finished talking to him. And his wife had she edited the book, but she died while editing our book of cancer. And she was in one of them bubbles with inside a bubble. He weren't allowed to leave the house. So I dropped him on his doorstep, and for 2 years we communicated by phone while he went through the tapes and the manuscript, redoing it. By the end of it, he went, "There's only half a book. I need to interview people. Can I interview you? He finally come to my house. First time I met him in person 2 years later. I told him what I'm telling you today, and he went, "That's the other half of this book." So the book's been made up of, it's quite clever what they've done. It's wrote really my dad in the present and me in the past. And it's a blended story of my dad's career, what happened and what happened to me after he died. And it's become, I did it for my dad's memory, really. But last year was a bestseller, Telegraph's Book of the Year. We've had multiple documentary offers on it at the minute. Whether or not that's going to happen, it's up to my mum. I've not listened to the tapes, which people think's mental, but I haven't.
It's interesting. There's a question I ask all my guests, Joe, and that is, for those listening, from what you've been through, from your personal experience, for those listening who are struggling with addiction, what advice would you give to them?
Stay sober for 1 hour. If you can stay sober for 1 hour, you can do 1 day or 12 hours. You can do 1 day, 2 days. And if you can do that, you can do anything. And that 1 hour can be really hard. It sounds so simple to people that are not, but you might have to go and sit. I used to go and sit in the bath. Think, right, I'll sit in the bath for an hour, get my laptop and watch it, put it aside, watch an episode. I'm not going to ring anyone when I'm in the bath. That'll get me through it. Go for a walk. But just stay sober for 1 hour. That's all you got to do. Get help.
Thank you, Joe. Joe, thank you for coming clean with me. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Cheers.